Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Mike. It is Tuesday, the day before FOMC, and the markets rejected at 109,000 for Bitcoin. Ethereum's back below $2,600. We've got a lot to get through. As always, we have a lot to get through. We're going to go through. Wait for it. We're going to go through what Donald Trump is planning on doing with his ETF filings. We're going to talk about Solana. We're going to talk about Justin Sun. We're going to talk about Jamie Dimon. We're going to talk about a portfolio that we set up, I don't know now, maybe 2 years ago. And then we're going to talk about hype and AI. A lot to get through with the X-Files and, of course, with the prices in the markets. But before we begin, a few good mornings. Bullish Bull is in chat. I hope you are well. Hidden Agendas is here. Manjeet is here. Fiducia is here as well. I hope you are all doing incredibly well. Now, I have the headache from hell. So my head is absolutely pounding and I am not too sure why. So if I am a little bit groggy today, you know why. Anyway, I think we should get into the stream. Before we do, one last thing. On the screen there, the WolfSwap quiz night is tomorrow night. Myself and the Oracle back in the studio. We're going to be going through all things WolfSwap. Everything you could possibly ever want to know about Compounder and WolfSwap is in this interactive quiz. Now, for those of you new in chat, this is genuinely interactive. You type join in chat during the quiz, and then you will be asked a series of multiple choice questions, and you simply answer 1, 2, or 3. You get 30 seconds to answer, and your name will be illuminated on the scoreboard if you're good enough. Now, we have some regulars. We have Mary, we have Danny, we have Tariq, we have KB. Who else is normally up there? Hidden Agendas is always up there as well. If you finish in the top 3, you're going to win a bag of Moon tokens. Okay? So, there are prizes tomorrow night. You don't just get the glory of being on screen. You do actually get some prizes. Good morning. To those of you that are in chat, I can't make out some names today. My eyes are really blurred today. Anyway, let's move on with the show. I have a little bit of volume in the background, which I really don't need. We're going to get on with the show, and we're going to go through the markets first of all. Where are we? Why are we not at 110,000? Why have we fallen back down again? Well, we very simply put, we got rejected at 109,000. And I have been saying for a while, let's make sure this is on the screen, perfect. I've been saying for a while that we need to break 112,000. And I'm going to keep saying it, and it is my whale moment. We need to break it for my sanity. I said this yesterday, I think, as well. My all-time high for Bitcoin this cycle, 2 years ago, was 111,600-ish. We've gone to 111,800, 900, and then we haven't gone any higher. We've just put in a higher low. And again, we've been rejected at 109,000. Now, there is lots of stuff going on in the world. We know, we have conflict. We have the FOMC meeting coming up tomorrow. Powell could be within his rights to put rates up. That would kill the market. He's not going to cut rates. Rates are going to stay the same. There's lots of reasons why Bitcoin is here. But just let's bear in mind, we're talking about $107,000 Bitcoin with everything else that's going on around the world. That should make you very bullish on Bitcoin. Okay? In the past, we have seen smaller things happen and Bitcoin crumble. Even as recently as the tariffs introduced by Trump, that caused the market to react really badly. I think we came down to 76,000, something like that. I think it was something like that. So again, these things happen, but be bullish. We're in a good position. Ethereum is below $2,600, however, $25.75. Look at XRP, $2.20. hanging on to that for Grim Life. Solana still above 150. That had moved up an awfully long way. I think we were up 9% yesterday. The bullish news about Solana is, of course, that they are expecting the ETF approval very soon. And a lot of people are saying it's going to be by the end of July. I don't think it's going to be by the end of July. I think it's going to be after summer. But what do I know? Tron coming in okay. Cardano still at 62.5 cents. We're down a little bit. We're not really down a great deal. It's nothing to really worry about, really, as far as I can see. Markets do what markets do. Monero up a little bit. Pendle is there. Tron, AB, Uniswap. Yeah, not really much to write home about. Losers, SPX 6900, the coin that the Oracle picked. He gave some price targets on one of the streams. He is streaming tonight, by the way, and he might be streaming somewhere different because we've been approached to stream on another platform. So we might give that a go tonight, but we'll let you know in Telegram where that is. Immutable is down. Dog with Hat, Hype is down. Again, Hype is down. I just think it's gone too far. We're going to talk about Hype, actually, when we get into the stream. Now, I saw this yesterday. And for those of you that are new here and you're wondering why I'm bringing this up, I like to compare the audience to various different farmyard animals, whether it be a cow, whether it be a pig, whether it be a bear. And this one made me laugh because this is how I imagine everybody walking around with their bags of alts, okay? When it works, of course. And this just tickled me because this is exactly what people are like. They're walking around and they're holding on to these bags of alts for dear life. They don't hold that much Bitcoin, and they've got the bags of alts, and they're all really, really bearish. But Bitcoin should be your number one in your bag, okay? Don't be like, well, I don't even know what this animal is. I don't know what the creature is, but look at it. The bags have fallen off its back. It just can't be bothered going back. I mean, this is what it's like at the minute if you're holding an alt-heavy bag. Your bags must be down 70, 80%. But alt season is all about those bags pumping. So you might despair at your bag of Cardano or your bag of XRP, whatever it might be. And if you've bought recently, if you bought at 250, 230 XRP, then of course you're not going to be in a good mood. But they will have their time in the sun. Now then, Eric Balchunas, I've been watching a couple of things he's been talking about recently. He's on a little bit of a roadshow at the minute. He's in London. But this is a really interesting point. And it's, in his words, it's an underrated point. Surviving multiple 50% plus drawdowns only to hit new all-time highs is something that Bitcoin shares with an elite group of stud stocks, in his words. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Berkshire Hathaway. Remember this. Bitcoin is volatile because it's new. Okay? It's a new asset and it's a growing asset. And the bigger Bitcoin gets, the less volatile it will get. It's still going to have 2 or 3% moves, yes. It might even have a 10% move down in a bear market. But, at some point, it's going to stop acting in a very volatile way. We've seen it move in 2 years from 16,000 to 111,000. That's a massive move. We're very unlikely to see it move from 111,000 to 1.2 million in the next year. Okay, maybe it will take 4, 5, 6 years to do that. So the speed of growth will slow down. The gains that you get from Bitcoin will slow down. The people that are buying Bitcoin at $500,000 or $1 million, they are only going to be seeing 5 or 6 or 8% a year, 10% a year maybe. You've been in it. And had you bought Bitcoin at $25,000, you've 4x'd your money. 400% profit on the largest crypto asset there's ever been. So just, again, when you look at Bitcoin, you have to put it into context of other assets. We've looked at the ETFs. Bitcoin is the most successful ETF that has ever launched. You compare it to Apple, Nvidia, stocks like that. It's comparable. It's the 5th largest asset in the world. You need to look at Bitcoin in the context of the rest of the world. If you sit in crypto and you look at Bitcoin, I see this with other communities as well, who sit there and they just look at their community and they don't understand the outside world, and they convince themselves this is the best thing that's ever existed. But compare it to other chains and compare it to the real world, and then you have a real basis for what you're saying about your chain or your project. Now then, it took Syrup 4 months to get to 100 million in TVL. This is just one small part of their portfolio of products. And they just received a $100 million deposit in one day. Now, this happened because of, I believe it was Spark, which is having their TGE or their launch on Binance today or tomorrow. And they've just put in another 100 million into Maple. We covered the news when it happened. They've put another 100 million in. My biggest concern now, and even though I'm an ambassador of Maple, my biggest concern now is the accelerated growth that we have seen with Maple is going to plateau. It can't continue to go at a 45-degree angle. And I think if you were getting in at 12, 15, 20 cents, you've done it. You will do incredibly well. But if you're going to get into Syrup at 60 or 70 cents, you're not likely to do more than a 3, 4 or a 5x. So you have to bear that in mind when you look at some of the projects that we cover. If we cover them from the start and you get in at the start, and we can be wrong, projects can go down in value, but if we're right and you're in at the start, that's when you do a 10 or a 15x. If you get into a project, if Syrup hits $1 and you start buying, where's the growth going to be? Because it's certainly not going to go to $50 overnight. Maybe 4 or 5 years, maybe. But getting into a really successful project is something we see all the time. People buy tokens and think they're just going to 10x. If you're buying into a project that's a success, then it will be a success. But please bear in mind, you're getting in at the top. And we talk about that a lot. Right then. Let me have a quick look. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, KB, Solo Sky. What do I think about JYAI with Bitmart listing and up-and-coming crypto common Kraken listings? I would have to go and have a look at that for you. I think one of the things about new coins listings is this. If you get into that token before the listing, it will pump. We see it all the time, especially with Binance. If you get a token that's 1 cent and it gets listed on Binance and goes to 5 or 6 cents, we say the same thing all the time. Sell at that point and take your profit and wait for the retrace. I say this to everybody because it's really important you understand this. Selling a token does not mean that you don't believe in that token. Whether it be JYAI or whether it be anything else, selling a token at its peak FOMO is the best time to sell a token and then buy back in on the retrace. That is simply how it works. I've done many a sale of a token that's gone up and kept going up. We sold Syrup at 25 cents. It's now 56 cents. But it doesn't matter because we've not stopped believing in it. We're going to keep buying it. What else is in here? Not for me, that, says KB. Right, let's move on very quickly. Coinbase CEO meets with British policymakers in London to discuss Bitcoin and crypto. Now, again, I know this is a different exchange, but one of the things that you have to understand about the UK at this moment in time is its reputation is in the gutter. The reputation of the UK is in the gutter, partly because of the government of the time, the Labour government, and partly to do with other reasons. There's a shift in basically the wealth around the world, and a lot of it is going to Dubai. And the biggest move is from the UK to Dubai. They're losing more millionaires than anywhere else in the world. That's not per capita, that's millionaires. And the millionaires are moving to Dubai. Now, that appears to be something that people would imagine to be or have a finality about it. And it isn't, because people with money, certain people with money, are very, very fluid when it comes to where they're living. So, for example, if Greenland offered 0% interest rates, 0% tax, 0% capital gains, and they had some beautiful apartments there, beautiful restaurants, whatever it might be, I guarantee you would see millionaires going to Greenland. El Salvador, lots of millionaires have gone to El Salvador. It's just the way that certain amounts of money move. Now, I don't believe that real wealth is leaving the UK, and I don't believe that real wealth is leaving America or leaving China. I think the transient wealth is moving around. That's totally different. But the other side of the UK is that it's always got a sensible plan and a sensible way forward. And meeting with various different people in crypto gives me hope, especially when Keir Starmer is taking an absolute hammering. The popularity of Keir Starmer is low. We had this with Biden. You know, Biden in his last few months of power, he was at such a low rating that, you know, I think Trump was 20 points clear at one point. I think if there was an election today, I think they're called the Reform Party, they'd win based on the polls. They weren't even in the last election. That's how bad it is at the moment in time. The optics on the UK are terrible, and there's reasons for it, which we're not going to cover. But as far as crypto is concerned, and AI especially, the UK has a lot to be positive about. Fusion energy, a lot to be positive about. The mini nuclear reactors that Rolls-Royce are building, very positive, okay? So don't believe everything you hear that's negative or positive about a place. Everywhere has problems, but everywhere has opportunities as well. Now, I am not here to bash Justin Sun, but I did write bingo under what CoinZilla had to say. He was investigated by the SEC. He then bought $75 million of World Liberty Financial tokens. They stopped their investigation. Trump's son joins the advisory board of one of Sun's companies. He becomes the largest holder of Trump coin. Incredible. USD1, Trump's linked stablecoin, gets listed on Tron, which of course is Sun's blockchain. Dominary Holdings helps take Tron public on the New York Stock Exchange. Eric Trump is expected to take a leadership role at Tron Inc. Now, I'm not saying that I am cynical. I am not saying I agree with this. I'm simply reporting it. But if I was to agree with this, I would say, and I have said this many times, that Donald Trump and his family are engineering themselves into a position of power as far as crypto is concerned. They are taking a foothold in every single sector of the crypto space. Stable coins, their own coin, meme coins, their own crypto platform, their own Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. Truth Social continues crypto push with dual Bitcoin and Ethereum ETF filing. Now, somebody said that they've got about $2.5 billion to already go into this. What is the issue with this? The issue is as follows. We know Donald Trump is trying to create generational wealth. By the end of his tenure, the Trump family are likely to be one of the richest families in America. Far wealthier than they are today. They've got 3.5 years left to do this. Look at what they've done in 6 months. All of this happened in 6 months. They talked a little bit about it before the election, but this has all happened since they came to power. Now, if you're the president of America, you should do what's called recuse yourself. And recusing yourself means you take out any decision making about your investments, your portfolio, whatever it might be, and you remove yourself from the situation. And what Donald has done is he's put Eric and Junior in charge of everything. And of course, they are their own men, of course they are. But they're also puppets of the Trump monster, let's call it that. They are doing deals with nation states. That's not America doing deals with nation states. It's the Trump media, World Liberty Financials. They're doing deals with nation states. Probably deals that should be done by America, for America. But there we go. We knew this would happen. And I'm not having a pop at them. I'm just reporting the facts. Now, this new ETF is basically 3/4 Bitcoin and 1/4 Ethereum. And as I've been saying all along to all the naysayers about Ethereum, it doesn't matter what you say about Ethereum. The men in suits with ties and nice stubble, they are going to be buying Ethereum. They're going to be buying Bitcoin. They've chosen Ethereum already. So if you hold Bitcoin and if you hold Ethereum, you are going to be very, very wealthy in the not too distant future, because these are the chosen ones. It's the chosen child, okay? It might not be the best at everything, but it's the best at what it needs to be the best at, and that is where TradFi is coming. Now, this is no surprise to me. When Solana launches its ETF, guess who's going to have a Solana ETF? Who's going to have an XRP ETF? Who's going to have a Litecoin ETF? Truth Social is going to have all the ETFs, okay? When you go and see Donald Trump and you talk to him about this, Donald Trump will turn around and say, I want all the ETFs, okay? I want all the stable coinings, okay? He doesn't care. He wants his fingers in all the pies. This has been the plan all along, ladies and gentlemen. And if he gets America on the right footing, if he sorts out tariffs, if he sorts out all the other problems that they've got over there, and he sorts them out to a better degree than Biden has, then is letting Trump make a few $1 billion on the side, is it worth it? Of course, I think it would be. If you got somebody around to your house and he said, I'm going to make your house worth $150,000 more than it's worth today, but I'm going to charge you $15,000 for doing it, you would take that deal. If Donald Trump comes in and he makes America less poor and does something with the debt somehow, but takes $50-60 billion on the side, would you take that deal? Probably, of course you would. So try and look at things in the cold light of day. Is he better than Biden? Yes. Is he better than Kamala Harris? We will never know. We will never know. Now then, Solana makes sense as a treasury asset amid outpacing ETH, says Cantor. Now, Cantor Fitzgerald, they are somebody I've heard about in the past, but they recently did a deal with Maple Finance. Of course, we're sponsored by Maple Finance. Maple Finance and Cantor are doing a deal to allow for over-collateralized loans and a Bitcoin treasury yield-bearing product. And Cantor Fitzgerald are going to offer that. It's going to be backed by Maple. They're a big player. Howard Lutnick, we've covered this before. Howard Lutnick is now the secretary or the treasury admin guy under Trump. His son's now in charge. They're a big deal. Now, they have come out and said that Solana being stockpiled as a treasury asset makes sense. I don't agree. Okay? I think we still have a little bit of a hangover left from what we talked about yesterday with FTX. I think we have a hangover from Pump.Fun. I think we have a hangover from the pump and dump schemes we've seen with Trump, Melania, and Libra. I don't think, for me, I would classify Solana as a blue chip cryptocurrency yet. I think we are maybe 6 to 12 months away, in my opinion, from that happening. I want to see more institutional adoption of Solana before we can turn around and say the big three: Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Solana. I think Solana is the prince. You've got the king, Bitcoin, you've got the queen, which is Ethereum, and you've got the prince, which is Solana. But it's still not ready for the throne, in my opinion. So Cantor analysts say they don't view Solana as a reserve asset akin to Bitcoin, but they see it as superior to its rival Ethereum, despite Ethereum having a longer track record and a larger total value locked. Developer growth on Solana has far exceeded that on Ethereum recently, and we expect that to continue. Using Sol over ETH as a treasury asset makes sense. These businesses think Sol can overtake ETH, which currently has a market cap 260% higher. If Bitcoin solidifies itself as the foundational reserve currency or asset for the digital economy, Solana aims to be the tech that powers transactions and marketplaces in the digital economy. We believe Sol treasury companies are betting the future of finance will be on-chain, and that chain will be Solana. Now, that's where I disagree. I think Ethereum and Solana, I think what will happen is Ethereum will become the base layer of TradFi. Solana is clearly the place that everybody wants to be because that's where retail is. But retail is not money. Retail is a lot of money, but it's not institutional money. Institutional money, in my opinion, will use Ethereum. Retail money will use Solana. So you need both. That's the answer. And if you were going to have a portfolio, I would have probably 65% Bitcoin, 25% Ethereum, and 10% Solana. If I had a treasury, that would be my setup. And that's the belief I would have in those currencies based on that. But it's good to see the word Solana on the lips of the likes of Cantor Fitzgerald. Yet again, it's another tick in the adoption box. Remember, we want adoption, integration, and regulation. That's it. They're the three tenets. And adoption is all about people talking about Solana, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. Now then, we mentioned this with CoffeeZilla. Eric Trump is the biggest fan of Justin Sun, but denies involvement in Tron's public venture. Now, what's going to happen with this is that Tron wants to basically, I've just said adoption, interoperability, and regulation. Now, adoption is, in my opinion, Justin Sun is a poor man's CZ. I've never liked him, and I've never liked Tron. Not individually, he's a lovely guy, you know. I like him and what he's done for the industry, but I don't like him as a player. Heroes become villains over time. I don't believe Justin Sun is... It's a little bit like when Abramovich bought Chelsea. Why did he buy Chelsea? He bought Chelsea to validate himself. That's why Abramovich bought Chelsea, to validate himself. Once Tron has IPO'd on the New York Stock Exchange, that will validate Justin Sun in America moving forward. I do not believe Tron's volume. I do believe it has a lot of very good features. Speed, cost, everything like that. How many projects have we covered on this channel that are built on Tron? How many DeFi projects do we talk about being built on Tron? How many NFT projects? How many meme coins? None. They try, and Justin Sun tries. He's thrown millions and millions at getting people to use Tron. And I never see it in the news. I never hear about Tron. So if we're looking at projects, I would put Tron in the same bag as I would put Litecoin. Useful, quick, efficient, has its own community, but I know nothing about projects built on Litecoin, nothing about projects built on Tron, and I read the news every day. And the news talks about Sui and Ethereum and Solana and Bitcoin, Cardano, XRP, Chainlink, even Polygon. We never hear anything from Tron. So I think, I'm not saying it's Emperor's New Clothes, and I'm not saying it's built on a pack of cards, but there is something not right with Tron. And there is something not right about everything associated, everything he touches, I just think is wrong. And I can't put my finger on why, but I don't trust him. And that is just my gut feeling. And Eric Trump, of course, one of Donald's sons, has denied reports he will be joining the board. Maybe he won't join the board today. Maybe he'll join it in a couple of years' time. But he will end up on the board. Why wouldn't he? I'm the biggest fan of Tron, Trump said on social media, adding that he admires Son and considers him a great friend and icon in the crypto space. He denied... Now again, go back 3 years. Has Eric Trump ever heard of Justin Sun? Nope. How does Eric Trump know Justin Sun? He knows him because he's the largest holder of Trump coin, and he also bought whatever it was, $75 million of World Liberty Financial. Okay? Now, I'm sure, let's say KB, for example. Let's say KB has a project, and I buy $75 million worth of shares in that project, and then KB's KB coin comes out, which is a meme coin, and I'm the largest holder. What do you think KB would say about me? I'm the biggest fan of Mike. Oh, absolutely. I admire everything Mike does. Mike is great. Of course he's going to say that. Because he's given him 125 million reasons to say that. So again, no fade or shade or whatever it's called these days on Justin Sun, but I don't trust this at all. This has a really bad aroma. And we talked before the election, I said that World Liberty Financial is the Achilles heel for Donald Trump. And I still believe that. I think World Liberty Financials is going to be the thing that costs the Republicans the next election, because it's going to make so much money. You know, Bernie Sanders is going to come out. He's going to, little vein is going to be popping on his head, you know, and that girl, Ortez, or whatever she's called, she's going to come out and she's going to say all these things. They're going to use the word oligarch every 3 words. And this is why, because Trump can't help but take a big chunk of the pie. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Anyway, we're very political today. We need to move on. Diamond Hands. Another one. Now, I'm not going to call Jamie Dimon two-faced. Okay? I'm not going to call Jamie Dimon two-faced. But what I am going to say, there used to be a politician in England called Paddy Ashdown. And he was forever doing U-turns. So he'd stand up and he'd say, I believe this. And then a month later, I believe this, +1. And he got a nickname, Paddy Pants Down, which I think has stuck with him for the rest of his life and ruined his political career. But there we go. And Jamie Dimon has said everything you want to say about Bitcoin. He has said it. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's used by bad people. It's used for bad things. It's used in a bad way. Everything you could possibly do. JP Morgan is never going to offer Bitcoin. It's disgraceful. I can't believe you're all falling for this. It's the emperor's new clothes. Everything. JP Morgan, however, has filed a trademark for JPMD, citing multiple blockchain use cases. JP Morgan, the world's largest bank, has applied for a trademark for what appears to be a new blockchain-based asset, JPMD. Some observers suspect the filing may be related to a potential stablecoin. Of course, it's a stablecoin. Everybody's getting a stablecoin. This bank has been an early mover in both the permissioned and blockchain and bespoke stablecoin space with its freshly rebranded Kinetics project. Now, I remember, didn't JP Morgan carry out a transaction years ago? Didn't they have, was it them or was it Citibank? No, I'm thinking of Goldman Sachs. It was either Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, and they carried out a transaction years ago, and they had their own token, and it failed. And the reason it failed was it was too soon, it was too early, nobody could transact with them, and it was never going to work. And I can't remember if it was JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs. It was one of the two. Anyway, they're going to offer a stablecoin. Of course they're going to offer a stablecoin because, of course, it makes them a lot of money. The application was filed. The trademark describes a system for digital asset trading, exchange, transfer and payment services, includes potential use cases in blockchain assets. The term stablecoin does not appear in the filing. Why would they? It outlines a wide acceptance of goods and services. Now, this was it. JP Morgan was an early mover in the tokenization space, particularly with its token collateral network. This was it. Launched in 2022, the platform allows users to post tokenized assets, including money market. I remember this. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon's infamous criticisms of crypto, particularly Bitcoin. That said, Dimon noted that JP Morgan is probably one of the bigger users of blockchain last September. Now, again, what I find interesting about this is that there was a time when some CEOs said, if you hold crypto assets, you're going to get sacked. Now, what you hold in your personal life is of absolutely no concern to anybody that you work for. If you work for Barclays Bank and you hold stocks in HSBC, that should not be a sackable offence. Clearly, if you're the CEO, you shouldn't be holding hundreds of millions of dollars in your competitor's stock. I get that. But as an employee earning £50,000, £60,000 a year, whatever it might be, you should be allowed to hold whatever you want. It's your personal finances. The likes of Jamie Dimon, I think even Larry Fink once said it, have all said, you know, we don't want anybody who works for us to hold Bitcoin. Again, do as they do, not as they say. That would be my advice. Now, how long do we have? Because I have gone on a fair old bit. Bullish Bull has met Paddy Pants Down. I think that is absolutely fantastic. Right then, so where we're up to, we've got 3 articles left. I've got 23 minutes, got plenty of time. I was going to bring up the Bitcoin chart today and have a quick chat about it, but I don't want to be too bearish. I read the tenets of, what was it called? Somebody posted on X yesterday, the law of attraction. I am the opposite of the law of attraction, okay? I am not the person to sit here and tell you that everything is going to go up through the roof, okay? That's not me. So if you want somebody to tell you that we're going to go to $1 million for Bitcoin, $35 million, $35,000 for Ethereum, I'm not the person. Now, what I am going to do, this is going to be brief, by the way. We created a $15,000 portfolio 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, something like that, for the end of this bull run, which is hopefully November. And it's called the $15,000 to $1 million portfolio. And the aim of this portfolio in the first phase, which is this bull run, was to get to $100,000. That was it, okay? It's not meant to turn $15,000 into $1 million in one cycle. That is not the point. Now, we're halfway there, almost. We have been as high as $50,000, so we have been as high as halfway there. Why am I showing you this? Because we started this, when we started the channel, we started this. I think the channel started in June 2022. We started live streaming maybe in about January 2023. And we started it around about then. So this has been with us since we started. Now, this is not meant to be the highest return portfolio. It's meant to be a portfolio for people who come to crypto and don't know what to buy. Now, bear in mind, it's 2.5 years old. Things change in crypto really quickly, but we stuck by our guns. We haven't changed it. And that's the point. I want to show you what we picked 2.5 years ago and how it has performed. So there was $15,000 put in. It's now worth $42,000, but it's not, because some of these assets have been staked. Some of these assets are a lot higher. We're more likely to be about 45,000 now, I would say. Now, you can see in the profit and loss column. Can you see in the profit and loss column, or is it being blocked out by... No, you can see it. Perfect. So this is the return we've had since we bought into these assets. We are up 375% on Bitcoin. We are up 440% on XRP in this portfolio. Ethereum is up 55%. I don't think Ethereum would have been up had we looked at this a month ago. Cardano is up 81%. Chainlink is up 95%. And then we have three laggards. ICP is down 5%, Algorand is down 25%, and look at Polygon, down 80%. Now, this is not an equally weighted portfolio, and it was never meant to be equally weighted. Of the 15,000, we probably put, I can't remember the exact amount, maybe we put 5,000 into Bitcoin. I think maybe 5,000 into Bitcoin. I think maybe we put 5,000 into Ethereum. So 10,000 of the 15,000 went into Bitcoin and Ethereum. As I was saying before, they should be number one and number two in your portfolio, in my opinion, even now. The one glaring omission from this is Solana. And you've got to remember the time we were building this portfolio. And January 2023, what happened in November 2022? Was it November 2022 when FTX collapsed? So we should have bought Solana, but we didn't because of all of the fallout from FTX. So the one glaring omission from this portfolio is Solana. If I was to do this portfolio again, I would keep 6 of these projects. I would keep Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, Cardano, Chainlink, and ICP. And I would get rid of Algorand, Polygon, and I would probably bring Solana into this portfolio. That's the only change I would make 2.5 years down the line to this portfolio. Okay? Now remember, maybe September we'll look at this again. We only look at this maybe every couple of months, and it's just to show you how it's going, really. So there you go. It's gone from 15 to 45. So it's 3x'd so far. And ideally, it just needs to go up double from where we are now. And we will sell all of that, sit on cash, and then wait for whatever bear market looks like next year. And then we will buy back in. The next target will be 250 to 300,000. So this is actually like a 10-year portfolio to turn 15,000 into $1 million. We might never make anywhere near $1 million out of it, but that is the plan. Now then, we're going to talk a little bit about this because it's one of those things where you guys have seen me bring it up. We've mentioned it at 25, 30, 35, 40. I think it got as high as $44 yesterday. And this article, I haven't handpicked this article. I've just found it. 1 second. I think Bitcoin. I think the thing with Saylor is when you're $42 billion deep in a project, you're gonna have to talk it up, aren't you? If you open a new restaurant, you're gonna say it's the best food that's ever existed. Those chickens that we use, in the food, those chickens sleep on a golden throne. Those lambs that we have in the field, they float around on little miniature kind of tractors so they don't have to get the paws dirty. You're going to say all of that nonsense because you want people to buy Bitcoin. Saylor will be wrong, but he will be more right than wrong, if that makes sense. If he says we're going to go to $1 million, he could very well be wrong, and we could go to $600,000, but still a 6x from where we are now, and he will be wrong. So he's giving you an extreme. In my opinion, he's giving you an extreme of where he thinks we're going to go. I would listen of everybody in the market, I would listen to Cathie Wood. That's who I would listen to. If you want a considered price for Bitcoin, Cathie Wood is the person I would listen to. Not Saylor, not who else comes out with predictions, not that idiot Rich Dad Poor Dad. I wouldn't listen to him. I wouldn't listen to Justin Sun. I wouldn't listen to anybody who's got that much skin in the game. But I've seen her. I've read maybe 50 articles she's been in. I've watched 30 or 40 videos that she's been in. And she's the one who I would trust. Now, she changed her targets for Bitcoin pretty much when Trump got elected. And it went up an awful long way. Yeah, again, Stephanie, I would agree with that. I think she predicted $1 million by 2030 until Trump came in. And now, as Stephanie said, she's predicted 1.5 million. Now, that is 5 years away. That's this cycle and next cycle. How do you get to $1.5 million? With what we have right now, you can't. You can't get to $1.5 million in Bitcoin with what we have right now. What we need is the money supply to go up, number one, because in 2030, that 1.5 million isn't 1.5 million. It's probably got the purchasing power of 1.2 million, because you lose 6% a year, 5% a year off your purchasing power. So money's worth less in 2030 than it is today. So inflation and the money supply's got to go up. Then you need a supply shock. And I follow, I think I told you about this a few weeks ago, I follow a new account on X, which is a Bitcoin exchange tracker. It tracks the amount of Bitcoin on exchanges. And I think we're at we're about 90,000 above either 1 million or 2 million, and I can't remember which one it is. But the supply shock comes next, and that supply shock is going to cause FOMO from everybody. And my only worry with all of this is what happens when it goes to $1.5 million. What happens when it goes to $1 million? At what point is there no supply left and people still want to buy Bitcoin? At what point does it mature to the point where it just follows along? Because a $1 million Bitcoin gives it... Does it give it half the market cap of gold? Something like that. So I think we've got a problem. Expectation and reality. You read the recipe and you bake the loaf, and the loaf looks more like a trifle than what the recipe says. And at the minute, we're looking at all of this expectation, and where is the reality going to be? Clearly, we're going to go above $300,000-$500,000 in the next 5 years, 4 years. But are we going to get to $1.5 million? Cathie Wood seems to think so. She's the one I would follow. But I don't think we're going to go to 500,000 this cycle. If we go to 500,000 this cycle, I'm going to be so happy and so glad I'm wrong. Don't think I'm not, I'm not a bear. I try to be realistic. $120,000, $130,000, $150,000 this cycle, I think, is a fantastic return. If we go above that, then something external has caused us to do that. And that could very well be the strategic reserve in America. It could very well be a nation state buying 200,000 Bitcoin. Something along those lines has got to happen to move us those prices, because the charts don't show a $250,000 Bitcoin. And if the charts don't show it, then an external force has to create that demand to create that supply shock. Because I've still got 120, 130. So what gets us from 120, 130 to 500,000? Donald Trump coming out and saying we're going to buy 100,000 Bitcoin in the next 6 months. That might do the trick. Now then, new all-time highs for Hyperliquid, but can it really back up the hype? A 36% rally this month, all-time highs stacking up, Hype's bullish wave isn't slowing down yet. Now, I am going to tell you one thing that I'm going to stand by. James Wynn has done more for Hyperliquid than anything else, because everything he did for the last 2 or 3 weeks, shorting and longing Bitcoin and losing, was all through Hyperliquid. And I don't buy the story of I've not made any money from Hype, okay? Because in the next breath, he's made $1 million in referral fees. In the next breath, he's onboarded 50,000 people to it. So which one's true? You've either made nothing or you've made $1 million. You know, I just don't believe him. I don't believe him at all. Anyway, the token notched its second all-time high in just a week, going up 36% this month. Momentum accelerating, market interest spiking, Hype may be on the cusp of entering the top 10, which I don't believe. It's another 50% away. It's got to get to $66 from 40 to break into the top 10. Do you remember we had these types of articles about TON, and it never made it. Sui hasn't made it yet, and Sui has massive people behind it. After clocking fresh all-time highs at 44, it's now 40. And again, don't get me wrong. If Hype has a retracement to $20, $25, by all means, go and have a look at it. By all means, it might end up being a really good pick for the bull run. Maybe it goes to 2025 on a massive retracement. Maybe you can pick it up. Maybe it goes to $100. Who knows? But it's just gone up so quickly that I think when you see Hype coins, no pun intended, go up so much, I just don't buy the hype. So the RSI hit 70. With $50 on the horizon, bulls are prepared to be far from exhausted. I don't think so. 15 billion is in sight. Now, they do have, as far as I'm aware, they do have a buyback mechanism. So a percentage of their fees goes to buying back the token. I know that will help, but so has Jupiter's got it as well. I think Jupiter is spending 50% of their fees on buying their token. The token's at 43 cents. It's actually gone lower since they started it. So I don't think it's just the buyback mechanism. Hype, the DEX volume recently passed 600 million. Its TVL is at 536 million. I just don't buy this. For Hype to sustain its ascent, a rise in TVL will be key. Otherwise, the rally risks running on short-term hype and long-term fundamentals. DYDX did the same thing. DYDX, which was an ex-Coinbase employee, launched DYDX. It ran and ran and ran. At one point, DYDX did more volume than Coinbase at one point. And it took him 18 months to do that. And then DYDX has fallen by the wayside. I'm not saying, and I don't want Hype to go to $1. I just think Hype coins should be avoided, in my opinion. 130 to 180 this cycle would be great. It would be absolutely fantastic. I would be all over that. And any higher than that, and you are looking at something that we've never seen before, and that's going to be a game-changing move. If the Saudis came out and said that we're buying $1 billion a day of Bitcoin, changes the market. If the Saudis then come out and say we're buying $1 billion a day of Bitcoin, Trump has to move. If Trump moves and the Saudis keep going, then you're going to get the Me Too movement, which is I want my Bitcoin too. And then you enter some kind of parabolic phase which nobody expects. That's a scenario that could play out tomorrow. But it's not the scenario that exists today, and it's not what we're looking at today. And today, you have to look at the charts. And today, you have to say, where is our top? You know, there are loads of charts showing you where we could go to. Pick one and stick to it. Pick one that you like the fundamentals of how that chart works and stick to it. Now, the AI Godfather warns super intelligent machines could kill off humans with biowarfare. Now, I criticised this on an X post, and somebody commented with one of the funniest replies I've ever had, which was, give me strength when somebody criticises the godfather of AI for not knowing what he's talking about. That was the comment underneath, and it made me laugh. But he missed the point. I wasn't criticising him for not knowing what he's talking about. I was criticising him for the extreme scenario that he gave, which is a kind of Terminator-esque scenario. Now, many things could have killed off the humans in the recent 30 or 40 years. You could even go back to the atom bomb. Loads of things, and never has done and never will do. AI is not going to replace all of humanity in jobs. It's going to replace certain jobs, and then it will create certain jobs. There will be a shift in the labour force. That is a fact. Now, the idea that somebody making your ham and cheese sandwiches in your Boots factory that's suddenly going to pick up a shredder and go and start shredding the foreman is too far-fetched for it to ever happen, in my opinion. I do not believe that this is the case, but I do believe, however, that cyber attacks are on the agenda. Now, if you look at, and I've had this conversation with you before, I know, but we'll recap anyway. 12 months ago, 18 months ago, Elon Musk, Rishi Sunak, America and China sat down in London and started to flesh out the AI rules of engagement. Now, everybody's going to turn around and say, oh, China's going to use this against America, or, Russia's going to use this against China. We've had certain types of things for 60 or 70 years, and they've never been used because they're an existential threat to humanity. That's why, okay? And everybody knows that. And certain countries may have conflicts with other countries, but that final button has never been pressed. And that is the best example I can give you of why this will never happen. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because, of course, AI impacts massively on crypto, but in a positive way. Imagine your Phantom wallet or your MetaMask wallet has its own iteration of AI specifically tailored to you. And it can detect, there are certain types of transactions. If you ever make a transaction on Phantom, you will see within a couple of seconds or a minute a similar transaction to come into your wallet for maybe 0.001 cent. And that is a fake address that's copying the address you've sent transactions to. A good example was the Mew winners. People who won Mew on the last Mew stream. Within 5 minutes of me sending out 3 Mew prizes, 3 fake addresses appeared in my Phantom wallet, and they were from a kind of hook. So I would go back and see that was the last wallet address, and then I would send the next amount of Mew to them, and then they'd run away with the money, whatever it might be. An AI wallet is hopefully going to stop your wallet being drained, stop these types of fake addresses being sent to you. They can just delete them so they don't appear. They can hide them from you so you don't see them. And I could say, okay, right, KB has won. KB has won this week's Mew. Can you send KB $20 of Mew? And the AI bot goes away, checks KB's wallet, makes sure that it's still got funds in it, make sure it's still transacting, and then send KB $20. Or it comes back and says KB hasn't used that address and it's now empty. You might want to go and check with KB that that's his wallet. Now that's the benefit of AI. And instead of focusing on the fear, because humans don't like change, instead of focusing on the fear, Look at what it can do. It's probably going to get rid of wallets being drained. It's probably going to get rid of these types of phishing attacks. It's probably going to stop you from losing your money. That's where I would look at it. Do you think the walls... I don't think we're going to get to that point. I can't go into the details. It's a crypto stream. I can't go into the details. But what I would say to you is this. There's been a de-escalation and a drop in the frequency of actions by both actors over the last 4 days. 4 days ago, it was X. Yesterday, it was Y minus 80%. There's a de-escalation on both sides. And that's probably a result of pressure from certain other countries like America and Russia and China. At the end of the day, if two little kids are having a fight in a playground and the big guys turn up and say, you two need to pack it in or we're going to get involved, and you're not going to like that, the two little kids stop fighting. And those big kids are Russia, China and America. And they've all agreed that this is really bad for everybody, so stop. And you can clearly see a de-escalation. The problem is with the press. The press have become a clickbait entity. They care about you clicking on their links to generate them advertising impressions. If they say to you, don't worry about it, don't worry about it, it's nothing really, it'll be over in a week. You won't read the paper, you won't read the headline, you won't click on the link. If they say to you, this is the end, ... with a link, read now, okay? You'll click on it because you want to know what the end is. And that's the problem with the press. And the press are wholly responsible for fear-mongering. And the press are wholly responsible for all the ills in the world. And the reason they're responsible for all the ills in the world is they are the communications between what's going on in the world and you. You only find out news from listening to the press. So there's only one group of people responsible for fear-mongering, and that's the press. And they are wholly irresponsible. And their code of conduct went out the window 30 years ago. And they are a disgrace to their profession. The press are despicable. And that goes for about 97% of them. And I guarantee you, I'll let you into a fun little fact. I've read a book called Unshakable about stock markets. And it kind of like flips the way that you understand stock markets. In fact, we're finished for the day, so I'll close that down. And one of the things that... let me just close this for a second, because then you will see me in full technicolor glory. There we go. Okay, you can see me now. Right. During stock market crashes, men have more heart attacks than at any other point of the year. So, fear has a direct correlation to an external factor. So, heart attacks have a direct correlation to stress and fear. If you're kept in a state of fear, that's exactly how people want you to be kept. And again, I'm not going to go all Russell Brand and Kumbaya. It's not about that. I'm just saying, as Stephanie brought up, could these certain things happen? Of course they could. What are the chances of them happening? 0.1%, if that. Because it won't be allowed to happen. Everybody at the table understands what happened 80 years ago and 100 years ago. And everybody does their best to stop that from happening again. And that's both sides. And you are fed a pack of lies on a daily basis about many things, which I can't mention on here. And both sides are fed these pack of lies, by the way. Everybody's fed packs of lies. And even when it comes to crypto, we don't get it so much in crypto because it's such a niche. But even in crypto, Eric Trump turning around and saying he's such a stellar guy. He didn't know him 3 years ago. Probably didn't know him 2 years ago. And then he goes, yeah, I'm not going to be on the board. Clearly, he's going to be on the board. He could very well join the board the day after Trump is replaced as the president of America. Just the way it works. Anyway, I have gone off on a rant. It's 12:05. I apologise for my slowness today. I've got the most incredible headache. I've woken up with a headache. I don't know why. I'm drinking liquids to try and stay hydrated. But I hope you all have a great day. I will get this right at one point. There we go. If you look over here, Wolf Swap, the quiz, is tomorrow night. It's interactive. You can play along. Come to YouTube tomorrow night, 7 p.m, which is 7 hours from now. We will be here. You type join. That gets you into the quiz. And you will be able to play the quiz. Hopefully KB will be here. Simon will be here. A few others will be here. And it's a proper quiz. It's a pub quiz. All about Wolf Swap and Compounder. So make sure to join us. I'm going to go and have a lie down now and probably put something on to relax my poor head. So have a great day. Thanks for coming, everybody. And I will see you in the morning. Take care.